Since when did being accepted become more important than being whole? Have you ever caught yourself trying to be everything to everyone while inside you feel nothing? Trying to remain calm, light, understanding, even when your chest is at war? Have you ever smiled out of politeness while your soul screams for help? That is not kindness, that is self-abandonment, and it has a price. The problem is not that you are good. The problem is what you have been made to believe about what it means to be good. You have been taught that being good is never saying no. It is carrying someone else's burden. It is ignoring your own pain so as not to bother them. That being good is always being available, always kind, always willing, even when exhausted, even when empty. Kindness has become a performance, and you have become an actor trapped in the lead role of a play that never ends. There are days when you wake up and already know that you will swallow yourself whole the day, that you will pretend not to care, that you will laugh at unfunny jokes, that you will accept requests that suffocate you all to maintain an image. The image of someone who can handle it, of someone who holds it together, of someone who doesn't get in the way. But this image is slowly killing you. Because behind the understanding man, there is a silenced man who has become accustomed to being the last to sleep, the first to give in, the easiest to forget. And this feeling that you are only seen when you are useful begins to erode your identity. You begin to wonder, would anyone choose me if I stopped pleasing them? And then comes the guilt, because every time you try to prioritize yourself, it feels like you're being selfish. You try to rest and the weight comes. You try to refuse something and the fear of disappointment comes. You try to be true and you feel like you're going to lose everything. But lose what? Those who only stay when you betray yourself? You have become an expert at enduring. You endure in silence. You endure alone. You endure more than you should, and you still smile. But that smile is not lightness. It is a scream through clenched teeth, a silent plea from someone who was taught to care, but was never cared for. If no one has ever told you this in so many words, I will say it now: your pain is legitimate. Your tiredness is real, and this armor of kindness that you wear is not protection, it is prison. You learned to be good too soon, perhaps as a child when he realized that pleasing was safer than being true. Perhaps when he understood, in the eyes of others, that his value was linked to his usefulness. You noticed that when you were helpful, you got attention. When he was obedient, he received affection. But when I dared to say what I felt, silence came. Contempt, scolding, guilt. So you adapted. And little by little he learned to silence his own truth, to fit, to please, to survive. Today, you are this functional, helpful, balanced man. But inside, he carries the weight of an identity that never had space to be born. You don't know what you really want, know what others expect. You don't know what you like. You know what you need to pretend to like, to be accepted. And this emptiness does not come from absence. It comes from the excess of everything that is not you. You smile when you want to explode. You listen when you want to disappear. You help when you no longer have the strength to do it yourself. And the worst part, you are praised for this. People say how calm he is, how kind he is, as he is always there. But no one sees that. To be there, you had to leave yourself. It's easy to admire a man who serves. It's hard to see the price he pays for it. Insomnia, anxiety disguised as productivity, anger that turns into gastritis, chest pains, a silence that makes you sick. You were trained to be indispensable. But he was never taught to be whole. He was valued for what he does, but not for what it is. And now, every attempt to reconnect with your essence feels wrong. You start to think that resting is weakness, that saying no is violence, that walking away is betrayal. But the real betrayal was another. They taught you that being yourself is dangerous, and that to be loved, you would have to mutilate yourself emotionally. You have become a beacon of strength for others. But when was the last time someone asked you, are you really okay? There is a type of slavery that leaves no marks on the body, but shapes the entire structure of the soul. It is the slavery of the good man, one who believes he needs to earn his own right to exist, who was trained to serve, to please, to endure, who unconsciously believes that their presence is only tolerable if it comes with sacrifice. You became that man, polite, discreet, invisible, not because I wanted to, but because it was the only way to avoid being punished. You have absorbed a morality that preaches that suffering is a sign of value, that silence is noble, that sacrifice is virtue. But what happens when you sacrifice everything and no one gives back? You don't become a hero, you become invisible. The morality of the good man is a sophisticated trap, because it convinces you that if you are patient, everything will work out, that if you hold on a little longer, people will notice. They will recognize, they will take care, but they won't. Because the world does not reward the good man, rewards the strategic man. It rewards the man who knows how to stand up for himself, who knows how to say no, who knows how to withdraw when he is being used. You were not taught how to protect yourself. He was taught to obey. And that's why now, when you try to set boundaries, your mind collapses. You feel guilty, feel afraid. You feel like you're betraying something, but the truth is that that something was never yours. It was put into you to keep you predictable, to keep you calm, to keep you tamed. It's like Nietzsche said, the morality of the weak is born of resentment. They cannot win, so they convince the strong that being strong is wrong. They convinced you that being good is being weak. That force is dangerous. That anger needs to be swallowed. That desire is sin. And you believed. You have tamed your power to be accepted. But now, something inside you begins to stir. A concern, a nuisance, an old anger not at others, but at himself. Because deep down, you know, your kindness has been hijacked and transformed into submission. The anger you feel is not a mistake, it's a calling. But they taught you to be afraid of her. They said that a real man doesn't get angry, doesn't impose himself, doesn't rebel. A real man, according to this training morality, is one who endures, who takes a beating without responding, who smiles while bleeding, who embraces the cross and still apologizes for the inconvenience. And then you grew up learning to contain everything, being diplomatic when you want to explode, using soft words while the throat burns with what was never said, offering understanding to those who never offered you respect. But there is a limit, and you feel it in your body, in the tension of the shoulders, in the locked jaw, in short breath, in the lost gaze. There is a point where the good guy dies, and the man who is tired of sabotaging himself is born. But this birth is painful, because you're going to have to bury the ideas that kept you quiet. You will have to disobey everything they said was virtue. You will have to question the image others have of you, and you'll have to do it alone. Because no one will applaud you for stopping pleasing. They will call you arrogant, of insensitive, of ungrateful. But the truth is, you're just tired. Tired of saying yes through gritted teeth. Tired of embracing causes that consume you. Tired of accepting less than you deserve, just so you don't get called difficult. You look in the mirror and see a functional man. But where is your soul? Where is your creative fury, your instinctive strength, your raw presence? Repressing your anger didn't make you better. It made you bitter. It made you apathetic. It made you dependent on the gaze of others to feel worthy. But what if you could look at that anger differently? And if it is not destructive, but sacred? What if she's the only part of you that still remembers what it's like to not accept being disrespected? Your anger is what's left of the man you could have been, before you shut up to be accepted. Awakening does not happen with light. It happens with disappointment. You don't wake up because everything gets better. You wake up because you finally realize that you can't keep cheating on yourself anymore. And that's when the penny drops. Suddenly, what you called peace was just anesthesia. That harmony you tried so hard to maintain was a silent pact with your own repression. You start to notice the details. In those conversations where you only listen but are never heard, in those relationships where you offer everything and receive crumbs, in environments where their presence is expected but their absence is ignored. And something changes. It's not revolt. It's not a scandal. It's a new silence. A silence that is not weakness. It is maturity. You stop trying to prove your worth. Stop justifying yourself. Stop running after applause. Because the worst loneliness is not being alone. It's being surrounded by people who only see you as a function, not as a being. You understand that you have been trained to adapt, but not to express yourself. He learned to be moldable, but not true. To obey, but not to exist. Then comes mourning. Mourning everything you tolerated in silence. For all the times you didn't choose yourself. For every moment you were your own jailer. And this mourning is necessary. Because you can't be born again without dying first. You begin to reject what you once accepted out of fear. Start saying no firmly, to walk away without making a fuss, to remain silent where before there was too much explanation, and the world is strange. Because you are no longer available to be emotionally exploited. He is no longer willing to serve as anyone's crutch. You stopped smiling out of obligation. He stopped being where he is not seen. Stop pretending everything is okay. And this simple gesture, this silent retreat, it is the beginning of your liberation. Something in you has awakened, and she won't sleep anymore. It's not a noisy revolution. It is a dense, strategic silence, an internal disconnection from the pacts you made with your own abandonment. You begin to see the subtle manipulations, begin to hear the difference between a request and a disguised demand, between genuine praise and masked demand. And for the first time, you don't feel bad about walking away. You don't explain yourself. Don't try to be understood by those who only wanted to mold you. You have learned the price of pleasing. Now you begin to understand the value of preserving yourself. And that changes everything. You start talking less, to observe more, giving slow responses in no rush to please. You no longer seek agreement, seek coherence. Your mind starts to go off autopilot. You look at the environments you frequented and realize you were there, but you weren't present. It was a play, an accessory, an emotional utility. But now you've come to your senses, and the presence of someone who has been reunited is a threat to those who only knew how to live with their absence. You didn't become a difficult person. You became a whole person, and those who benefited from your fragmentation will call you selfish. But you no longer need to be understood. You need to be truthful. Your energy has changed. You no longer trade your peace for inclusion. He no longer lowers himself to be loved. It no longer tolerates places where it needs to ask permission to exist. This is the beginning of your conscious coldness. Coldness is not the absence of emotion. It is dominion over them. It is the strength of someone who has already broken inside and decided not to repeat the same story. It's not that you don't feel it, you just don't sell yourself for emotional crumbs anymore. And now, whoever looks into your eyes feels something different, a silent firmness, a presence that does not ask for permission, a respect that doesn't need to be demanded, it just is. I can go with the chapter 7, you ChatGPT said, excellent. Here is the chapter 7, with around 3,000 characters, focused on rebuilding identity and reconnecting with the inner power that was previously buried by obedience and fear. Rebuilding yourself is not about going back to being who you were. It's finally becoming who you've always been, before the conditioning, before the guilt, before the mask. You start to remember yourself. Not the versions molded to please, but that silent echo that existed in you before the world tamed you. It's subtle, but powerful. You stop following rules that no longer make sense. Stop repeating mantras that never healed you. Stop apologizing for feeling, for thinking, for wanting more. You start making choices that seem small, but they are intimate revolutions. Start hanging up your phone without guilt, ignoring messages that violate your peace, walking away from conversations that drain your soul, respecting your silence as one respects a temple. And little by little, without fanfare, you return to occupying your own body. His gaze changes, your tone of voice changes, your step gains weight, your presence becomes solid. You realize that you don't have to be tough to be firm, not cruel. To be clear, you can have compassion without nullifying yourself. You can love without diminishing yourself. You can help without sacrificing yourself. Because now you understand your life can no longer be traded in exchange for acceptance. The man you were always available, always ready, always silent is never coming back. He was buried with all the excuses you gave to keep cheating on yourself. And the man who emerges now is dangerous, not because it hurts. But why don't you submit? Because he knows his own shadow. Because he has already visited the abyss and returned with his eyes open. He doesn't need to impose himself. Your presence is enough. Your lucidity is disturbing. Your silence reveals. He understood that power is not in controlling others. It's about not being controlled by anyone anymore. Have you ever wondered what's left when all the masks fall off? When does silence become deafening and loneliness a constant companion? It is at this moment that the truth reveals itself. You are not what others expect. You are not what you have learned to pretend to be. You are what is left when the performance is over. And what's left? A man tired of betraying himself, exhausted from carrying burdens that aren't his, hungry for authenticity. This is where the transformation begins, not with grand gestures or external revolutions, but with small internal decisions. Saying no when you used to say yes out of fear. Choosing silence when you were previously seeking approval. Prioritize yourself when you previously put yourself last. These are the real revolutions, and they don't need applause. They need courage, the courage to be who you are, even if it means disappointing other people's expectations. The courage to face the discomfort of rebuilding yourself. The courage to live with integrity, even if it means walking alone for a while. But know this lonely path is the way back home, to its essence, for your truth. And when you get there, you realize you're not alone anymore. Because there are other men doing the same thing. Men who are also tired of cheating on each other. Men who also chose authenticity. Men who also decided to live with courage. And together, you form a new brotherhood. Not based on appearances or social conventions, but on truth, respect, and freedom. So if you've made it this far, know this: you're not alone. And it never was. If this video resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And remember, the journey to authenticity is challenging but deeply rewarding.